Hello, everyone. I'm hoping you're all having a nice day, and I'm having a very nice day because I'm very happy to bring a new video of a new game that I'm starting to play called Age of Fantasy. Age of Fantasy Regiments, specifically. Now, very quickly, Age of Fantasy is the essentially the Warhammer Fantasy Battles derivative, or you could call it spin-off, from the original Warhammer, brought to us by One Page Rules. Some of you have heard of One Page Rules before. They also have their 40k version. I think it's called Grim Dark Future, which is just pretty much 40k. But I am more interested in fantasy, and thankfully, we have a regimental version of Age of Fantasy, which pretty much just increases amount of models you can take, amount of units, and so on. We'll go over the rules in a moment. But specifically, we are talking about the Ottawa chapter version. The Ottawa chapter version is based out of Canada. The Ottawa chapter version is just a rule set. You know, obviously, you have to live in Ottawa to play the rules. But it's essentially another spin-off of the Age of Fantasy Regiments, where we have our own rules, a whole rule set, house rules you can call them, and I'm very happy to bring them to you. So let's get right into it. If my keyboard will work. So yes, today I'm bringing to you a tournament day battle reports. We have 3 battle reports, which I'll go over. Disclaimer: this video will probably take a little while. I will go over the rules as quickly as I can. Thankfully, there's only 2 pages. And so please find it either in the description or just on the loading bar below. You'll find the different chapters or the different sections of the video if you want to skip forward or so on. Obviously, we have this long beginning that I'm talking about, but then I'll cut to the rules. I'll cut to the major differences between the original regiments and the Ottawa version. Then we have the lists, which I really like talking about. And then we have the actual battle reports. So yes, the video, this is only my 2nd video, so it might take a little while. But just feel free to skip forward if you don't want to hear me chat. So yeah, we have the battle reports here. So here is the actual rulebook for the Ottawa version. Yes, you can find the original rulebook on the One Page Rules website, but because there's a lot of rules that are changed straight up, we have our own rulebook. So I won't spend too long, but I'll try to be as descriptive as possible. So starting from the top left, going to the bottom left, it's pretty straightforward. We always use D6s. There's modifiers on the rolls sometimes, but always 6s are successful and 1s are always fails. Morale tests roll a D6, and if you roll equal to or above your quality, which I'll get to in a moment, then you're good to go. But if you're below, then there are some effects, which we'll get to later as well. Weapon profiles, there's melee, there's special attacks, and there's ranged attacks as well. Shaken units. So shaken units get -1 to their quality until they win a round of combat. Pretty straightforward. The way you become shaken is there might be a few spells or just abilities that make people shaken, but usually if you lose combat, which we'll get to in the combat phase. So melee and shooting, each unit allocates each weapon name to a legal target as attacks. Models take 1 quality test per attack, so pretty much just one roll per attack, or if there's 2 attacks per model, then 2 attacks or whatever's needed. For each hit, defending, so the target rolls 1 die, trying to defend against it. Very interesting thing about this game is that there's just 2 stats: quality and defense. So quality is essentially your weapon skill or your shooting skill, and then defense is practically your armor and your defensive skill, and toughness, I guess, or resilience, some people call it. So it's interesting. It's simpled down. It's simplified, but it works out. So pivoting, moving, spacing, you can just move around and pivot. Closing the door during a charge or when you come into contact with an enemy, you want to close the door. So try to have your a flat line of contact across the facing that you're in contact with. Shuffle units may move up to their advance, move right to align their centers closer with the target units. Yeah, just pretty much just shuffle over. I believe you do that right after combat. If you're both still alive, you just shuffle over just in case some guys have died or not. Line of sight. In most games, line of sight is very important, but we just want to specify it. Toughness, which is also your health. I may say health or toughness interchangeably by accident, but toughness is also your height, which is interesting. Now, it doesn't decrease when you keep losing health points, but as it says below line of sight, example, toughness 3, or in this case, height 3 cannons can shoot over toughness 1 units. In other words, your cannons can shoot over infantry. Most, if not all, basic infantry have toughness 1 or health point 1, but sometimes there's monstrous infantry or dogs and so on. And then preparation, very cool thing about this. Like all games, both players, or as many players as there are, put army lists equal points. Sometimes there's 2,000. We're doing a 6,000 point game. For this Games Day tournament weekend, it was 2,000 points. And an interesting thing about this Age of Fantasy is that you are allowed to put 2 different factions together. A few times the rules have changed between how many points, like 1,000 and 1,000 each, or 1,500 and 500, or a percentage base and so on. But that rule's kind of flopped around a few times. But it's pretty much you don't have to, but you can put 2 factions together and get the bonuses and the combos if you're looking for like the sturdiness of dwarves with the agility of wood elves and so on. Which we'll see. There's actually quite a few armies that are players that chose 2 armies or 2 factions and put them together. And at the very bottom left, all models in a unit must be in base contact with each other. Pretty straightforward. You gotta rank them up in a ranking game. And then if you have 5 models in the front row, then it's set up as it's 5, 10, 15, 20. You can't increase your sides, like you can't go by 7 by 2 to get more guys in attacking. It's always 5, 10, 15, 20. Or if you're bigger, like monstrous cavalry, monstrous infantry, you go by 3s, so 3, 6. It's very straightforward, just like that. On the very top right, we have deployment. So players roll off and the winner picks deployment, and their opponent chooses the other, and the players alternate in placing 1 unit each within the deployment zone, and starting with the player that won the deployment roll-off. Pretty straightforward. Game structure. Now, this is a major difference. The major difference is I have a slide after all the rules, which I'll go off really quickly. But in contrary to the original game, this game has 2 phases, the activation phase and the combat phase. The activation phase is essentially your move, shoot, magic, and special ability phase. And then there's the combat phase, where everyone just attacks. And so in the activation phase, you can use magic, you can shoot, you can also shoot enemies into combat, but you must choose a facing that is unengaged with enemy. So if they're face-to-face with an opponent, then you must shoot their side or their rear. You can't shoot their front. There are some exceptions, which we'll get to later. But then going into the combat phase, contrary to the original, where if you get into combat, then you fight, and then you separate from each other. Once you're in combat until one of the sides loses and is removed as a casualty. So it's broken down into 3 different parts. So number 1 is all units in combat fight simultaneously. Elves and goblins fight at the exact same time. It's an interesting rule. At first I thought, well, why would my Chaos Lord fight at the same time as some zombie? But the game is just designed to be fun, which I understand. I've grown to like it too, because it allows the weak, like just weak chaff zombie units or just weak barbarians to actually have a winning fight against like monstrous like chosen knights or even like a chaos dragon, for example. So units may allocate attacks with models from the first 2 ranks to the enemy engaged in its front facing, and it's also allowed to allocate attacks with models in its flank or rears with -1 to hit in the flanks or -2 to hit in the rear. No weapon can be allocated twice by the same model. So pretty much it's saying if you have, so only the front 2 ranks can attack, so which really only applies to the infantry, because they can have the really weak, like the basic barbarians, so on. They have 10 models to start with, but you can combine units to make them into 20. And then the more elite, like chosen or most shooting units only have 5, and then you can upgrade them to 10 models. So only the front 2 ranks can fight. And then, contrary to the original Age of Fantasy regiments, you can attack in the flank and your rear, but obviously with penalties. Pardon me. Step number 2, combat resolution. Compare the total number of wounds caused during this combat phase from its units in its specific combat, plus the number of full ranks remaining for each friendly unit, plus any bonuses, and for any engaged units that are +1 in the flanks, +2 in the rear, and then +1 for each full rank. The side with the lower combat score must take a morale test for each unit that participated in the combat phase. This morale test is affected by the morale combat modifier table, which we'll see in the next few slides. So pretty much saying, for every wound that you do, that's +1. And then you have +1 for your rank, rear, and then for every full rank that you have at the end of the combat phase, or that specific combat we're talking about, it's a +1. Now, there are a few other things that allow you to have +1s, like fear. Most big monsters and most characters just have a rule called fear, where they just get +1 for free, usually because they don't have ranks. But simply put, if you have more, we call it combat res, then you win. And what happens if you win or lose? Well, here's the next one. If the morale test of the losing, so if you lose, you have to take a morale test. If the morale test is failed, whilst the unit is down to half or less of its total tough value, which is its health value, then it routs. So it's just removed from the game. It's just straight up removed as a casualty. If it passes, or correction, if it fails, but it has more than half, it is considered shaken, which means, going back to the top left, shaken units get -1 to their quality until they win a round of combat. So they're not removed, they don't run away, and you can't pursue them or anything. Once you're in combat, you are in combat until you kill the enemy or they kill you. If all units from one player's side of the combat were destroyed, as I'm talking about, then no morale test is needed. If there's no enemy, then you don't need to take a morale test. At the end of combat, starting with the active player, units still engaged may pivot to face another enemy unit it is currently engaged with, and or close the gap, and or shuffle over. So pretty much when you're done combat, you can turn and face another enemy, or you can just shuffle over because you're missing some models or so on. If a unit had participated in combat this turn, but it is no longer engaged, either it eliminated the opponent, just gone, or because you're hit a flank of an opponent and it was combined a combined combat, which we'll see a few times in the battle reports, then you don't overrun into the other enemy that you're engaged with. You kind of just stay there, or you are released from combat. If you are released from combat, it may pivot any amount, then move up to 3 inches forward. So pretty much you just turn and move up to 3 inches. Doesn't seem like much, but when you have let's say cavalry, for example, you're a very melee focused unit, that extra 3 inches can really help you with the next charge. So that's the most of it. Your actions that you can take, a few of them are the same. There's an added one, and the values have changed a little bit. But let's just go over them quickly. So hold is you just don't move at all. You may pivot up to 150 degrees, or sorry, 180 degrees, and then you can shoot or cast spells or use the special abilities. So yeah, you just pretty much turn. Usually archers or gunners use this to just turn to face the enemy. Advanced move, which is the safer move. It's only 6 inches. Choose one of the following. Choose one of the following. May pivot twice, up to 90 degrees each. Then can shoot, use their special abilities, or cast spells, so on. Or it can also move sideways or backward at half its move range, which in this case is 6, and then cast spells and use abilities. For your rush or your march move, during or at the very beginning, or during the rush move, you may pivot up to 90 during the move. When you do a rush or a march, you cannot shoot, but you can cast spells and use your special ability. Also, which is a huge thing, that if you cannot do a march move if you are within 12 inches of an enemy, unless you have flying, or it says that you can for some other reason, like some sort of special ability. The charge move, big difference in comparison to the original, is the original was 12 inches plus a musician that gives you an extra, or if you're fast, you have +4, so on. But in this game, it's 6 inches plus 2d6. I really like the randomization. There's no guarantees. I don't think infantry should be able to move essentially as fast as cavalry, but the 2d6 really adds a huge range of randomization. Pretty much the charge, you have to be able to see the enemy, and you determine which facing you're in. The enemy can, in the reaction move phase, which will go right below, but they can flee. If your opponent flees, you may be able to, or you may elect to change your target, but only once. And then if everything's good and they stay where they are, they shoot or whatever, then you roll, obviously, the distance, and if you fail it, then you go the distance that you rolled, including the 6 inches. The 6 inches is base, so pretty much 6 inches. Minimum is 8 because you roll 2 1s if you suck at rolling. So minimum 8, but you always go 6 plus whatever you roll, obviously. And if you pass it, well, then obviously you get into combat. When you charge, you can move within 1 inch of other units, because there's a spacing rule. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. You can cast spells and also use your special abilities at the end of the move, even if you fail or succeed or so on. Obviously, you can't shoot. And then combat action, this would occur only when you're already in combat. So every unit must activate during the turn. Even if let's say every single damn unit is in combat, then every single one must activate, which is important because some people can use their, like Zinch, they got spells like crazy, or special abilities. So it's very important that everything does activate. And then reaction moves. So the hold is, you charge me, I'm just going to hold. It's very important because if you flee, then that counts as a reaction. If you stand and shoot, counts as a reaction. If you countercharge, it counts as a reaction. So if you hold, you don't use your activation at all, and you can use it later. Even though the opponent may get into combat with you, like the charge, it's important that you may do it or not, because then you can use your special abilities later. You can't use them, or you can't use spells or special abilities if you flee, stand and shoot, or countercharge. So you got to be careful. So flee is just straight up fleeing. You just roll 2d6 and you turn around and run for the hills. Next turn, when it's that specific unit's turn to activate, then you roll a morale test. If you pass, then you're good, and if you don't pass, then you keep running. Stand and shoot is the target, or the targeted unit for charging immediately conducts a shooting attack at -1 to hit, and it counts as being activated. So it's very important. If you have like a wizard inside of a shooting unit, for example, that wizard won't be able to use spells. So you got to be careful with that. And countercharge is actually a thing that the Ottawa group added which is huge. It changes the game a lot. So countercharge, as the name suggests, after your opponent completes its charge, even if they succeeded or not, and if legal to do so because there might be enemies in the way or terrain because the charge might be strange, then you complete a charge move. And obviously that counts as being activated. This is huge because it allows, like, let's say your infantry are way out of range. They just can't make it. So you don't even declare the charge or don't even use the activation. But your opponent's coming in with their quick infantry or their cav, so they declare charge on you. They're probably going to make it. So you declare a counter charge. So even if they fail it or not, once you get into combat, you both count as charging, which is huge because barbarians, for example, yes, they're weak, they're not very fast, they're not very resilient, but they have ability that makes them better in combat when they're charging. So it's very important to correctly use your counter charges or not. Pardon me. Here we have the last page of the basic rules, or the second part of the last page. And just really quickly, the terrain effects. So cover terrain, units shooting at enemies with most models in cover get +1 defense. So essentially -1 to wound from the shooting. Difficult terrain. So when you touch difficult terrain, every movement that you would do, every inch that you do inside a difficult terrain is doubled, which can really affect charges very badly. Dangerous terrain. So when models use a rush, charge, or flee reaction, and they come into contact with dangerous terrain, then every single model, not whole unit, model that did touch the dangerous terrain must take a dangerous terrain test. And you roll X amount of dice dependent on the health points or tough points of the model. So it could just be 1 for your infantry, or for your dragon character, it could be 15 or something like that. So you gotta be very, very careful. And then impassable is just impassable. It's just buildings or large objects. So the terrain types, there's hills. For line of sight purposes, they count as 9, which I like because usually hills go all the way up, so you can't see through a hill. But in this game, it only counts as 9. So, like really big units can see over them. Like my big bloodthirster, for example, can just naturally see over them. And then if you're on a hill, or if in contact with a hill, then you gain +9 to your height. And the water counts as dangerous and difficult. Farm is, or field in this case, is just difficult. Forest is cover and difficult, and so on and so forth. You can read. And then in the tournament balancing rule additions, deadly priority. So deadly hits resolve first. This is a little nuance here. So deadly, the rule called deadly is just an add-on rule where it's essentially multiple wounds. And you usually only see that with spears. So you must swing with them first, even though like, oh, I'm gonna die, just swing, whatever. No, this must go first. And as we said before, everyone attacks at the same time. Well, there's only a few things that go first. Gigantic models with toughness 12 or more ignore difficult, dangerous, and cover terrain. So it rewards you for being a big monster. But obviously those big monsters cost a lot more. Towering over, opponents using opposing units engaged in a specific facing with a toughness difference of 6 or more are targetable without penalties for being engaged in combat. That's a lot of words, but what does it mean? It means that when you're shooting at an enemy that's engaged in combat with your ally, if the enemy, let's call them a giant, if that giant is tough 6 or more, so obviously the giant's going to be more than 6 comparison to the 1 of your infantry, then you can shoot him without being impeded. As if towering over, he's so big you can't miss him. So this sometimes it affects monstrous cavalry, but it's usually really only for the big monsters, like the single entities, like the dragons and the giants and so on. Banner. The banner, you can always elect to use a 5+ morale. Doesn't sound very good, but when you lose combat by like 20, and there's just you have no faith in rolling, that kind of morale test, then usually you give banners to. Well, I mean, banners are good for everybody and they look good, but it's usually good for weaker units where you expect to lose a lot of models. So always having a 5+ guaranteed morale test. You still have to roll it, obviously, but take that as a backup. And then for flying, for line of sight purposes, counts as 24. So they're practically always in the air. I think 24 is the highest you can get. So you can always see a flying model. And the very last page of the standard rules, sorry for this taking so long, the front, flank, and rear, just to identify facings, and then the morale combat modifier. So going back to combat res, you've got kills, flanks, rears, and full ranks. Then here is how you calculate it. So if the difference between the winning and losing side is 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6, then you lose by -1 quality, -2, -3, and so on and so forth. So you're resilient 3+ quality. Oh, and quality is also your leadership. So you're resilient 3+ quality chaos warriors. If they get flanked, they take a lot of wounds, they don't really do a good job, they could easily lose by 10. Well, then according to the table, you lose by 6. Obviously, you can't lose by 6, but you want to watch out for that. That's why banners are so good. You can obviously 6s are always guaranteed, but take a banner, 5s and 6s are guaranteed. And this is the tournament scoring sheet. The tournament doesn't really necessarily matter. This is just the deployment types and the secondary objectives. So there's different deployments. The standard, the late arrival, where you have some ambushing guys, marching columns, where you have to go in a column, flank attack, where your deployment's smaller but you're fast, your cavalry, your dogs, so on, deployed later on the side, and a counter thrust, where you have to space each other's units 20 inches away. Pretty standard. I like, and they're pretty good. Sorry. And the secondary objectives, in comparison to, I'll go in the next slide, I'll describe it more, but in comparison to the original game, where it just had essentially just, I think it was D3+2 objectives, where you just throw them on the field and you go get them. Here we have proper objectives. So hold the ground, you just hold the center. Breakthrough is you break through the enemy lines, you get to their deployment. Spoils of War is you pick up tokens. King of the Hill is you choose terrain features, and then you go capture them. Capture the flags is you quote unquote take the flags of the enemy units, so just kill units pretty much. And then secure target is you control an area. So, and then on the very bottom left, it shows you the victory points table. There's the differences of how many points you. So it works is how many points you have left on the board, and then your opponent. You take that difference, and then you look at the table and see who won. And then obviously winning secondaries is very, very important because it's a 6-point swing. So it can definitely win you games. I think I've won quite a handful of games. But like I lost the game, but then won on secondary, or vice versa. I beat the opponent very well, and then I didn't capture the secondary, so then I lost because of the 6-point swing. So you gotta be careful of that. So here is the main differences, just to go really quickly over them. Sorry. Activation in the original game is all in 1. In the Ottawa, it's split into 2. In the original, missions or objectives is just placed on the map. Here we have in the Ottawa edition, we have proper secondaries. In the original, we have the charge is 12 inches, and then Ottawa is D6 plus, 6 inches plus 2d6. In the original, it's melee is you fight and then you leave combat. Also, only you're front facing, you can't fight in the flank. In the Ottawa version, once you're in combat, you stay until one of the sides is eliminated, and then you can also fight in the sides with a few penalties. And then the original banners give you +1 to your morale test, and then Ottawa version you may elect to use a 5+, And there's a few more. So yeah. I'm going to pause that there. So we'll start with the lists here. The names I did cover just for privacy's sake. But we have the High Elves. They're actually just straight up called the High Elves. There's a lot of factions that have alternate names, but for the sake of understanding, I'm going to read the name and then probably use its Warhammer name, just because that's much more commonly known. And I may go back and forth just by accident. So we'll start off. Oh, and additionally, really quickly, characters. You need to have one character, or hero in this case, per list. So there's no generals. There's no, I don't know, anything like that. It's just one character, just to keep it simple. Usually a caster, but sometimes, like in the list here, we like to take a big dragon. So here we have a High Noble or a High Prince. Q3 is quality, which is your offense and your offensive skill, your leadership, your weapon skill, whatever you want to call it. D4+ is your defensive, which is also your resilience, your toughness, your armor save, and so on. Hero, tough, so your health points, he's 15. And the reason he has so much is because he's on a dragon. It doesn't say he's on a dragon, but with the special rules, you can figure it out. Highborn, so every faction has their own special rule, just like in most games, but most of them are pretty straightforward. For Khorne, it's if the enemy rolls a 1, you get an extra hit. For High Elves, you can move more. Most demons is magic-based. Dark Elves is you can move after shooting and so on. But it's thematic and like Beastmen if the opponent rolls a 6, or they have to re-roll 6s to defend. So a lot of the melee-focused factions have melee focus, and then High Elves have movement and so on and so forth. But either way, pardon me. The High Lord, or High Prince, is also a caster. He's got a breath attack. He's got Fear 2. Fear is just a baseline addition, because 1, it's a big scary dragon, and 2, most monsters have fear just because they don't have the opportunity to have ranks, so they substitute that with fear, which is just a straight up addition. It's the rule of fear. It says that you count having X combat res as if you did wounds, so that's pretty good. Fly and regeneration. Regeneration is pretty much just a ward save of a 5+ after you've failed your defense. And then he's got a High Noble, shielded aura, heavy spear, and a bow. A lot of quote-unquote auras means that you give the rule to itself and the unit it's joined to. Pardon me, sorry. The unit's joined to as well. Sometimes on the lists it says who they're joined to, sometimes they don't, so that can be kind of annoying. But the High Noble, I can only assume he was joined to maybe the Warriors or maybe the Phoenix Guard. The next we have the Warriors with spears. So Warriors pretty much are just spearmen, but they can also take halberds or hand weapons. So a unit of 10 spears, a unit of 10 Phoenix Warrior, which are Phoenix Guard, with banners, a sergeant. Sergeant is pretty much a champion. I may accidentally call him a champion sometimes. It's just one singular dude in the unit that rolls separately, and if he rolls a 6 on his attack, then he gains another attack. So it's only 5 points, so it's a nice little addition. Plus, most players have their own sergeant or champion model that looks a little different, so it's a cool little addition. They have archers, Coast Guard, which are Sea Guard, unit of 10 of those. 5 Shadow Sisters, which would be Sisters of Avalorn with the magic bow. Reaver Cav, which are Lyran Reavers. Dragon Cavalry, which are Dragon Princes. And then High Elf Artillery, which is just a good old bolt thrower. So next we have Havoc Warriors, which are Chaos Warriors. Now, you can split your lists into the dedications of, they're called Plague and Lust and War, but pretty much just the Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, and Slaanesh. But Havoc straight up is just undivided. Here we have a Havoc Master, who's also a caster, and thankfully it shows he is joined to a unit of 10 Chaos Warriors. We have another Havoc Master joined to another unit of Chaos Warriors. Then we have a Harbinger, which is essentially a Demon Prince, and he is joined to, who's also a caster. We've got a few casters in this army. Joined to Havoc Ogres. So that's pretty cool. And they have great weapons, so that's a big, tough unit. We have a unit of 3 Drake Centaurs, which are Dragon Ogres. Havoc Trolls, so 6 of them, a big old unit of Trolls. And they have 4 attacks each. Goodness, that's a lot of attacks. Then we have a Barbarian Champion for 65 points, a real cheap guy. He's not that strong, but as I mentioned earlier, the aura abilities can really make or break the unit he's joined to. And he is joined to 10 Hunters, which would be Barbarians with bows in this case. And he's got the Shred when shooting, so that means when you roll a 6 to... I think it's a 6 to wound, or a 6 to hit the opponent, then it counts as plus 2 AP, so it's pretty good. It combos with the Chaos Undivided special rule, where if you charge an opponent, or you shoot an opponent, so if you charge opponent in general, or if you shoot an opponent from 9 inches away, you get plus 1 AP. So going back to the Great Weapon Ogres, if they charge, they have AP 3. Which is pretty darn good. And then lastly, we have a Slaughter Beast. Just a big old guy. Here we have my list, Nathan Brown. I took Rift Demons of War, or just Khorne Demons, and War Disciples, which are just Khorne Chaos Warriors. We have an Ascended Harbinger of War, which would be a Bloodthirster. He's got flying, and he's got 2 big Great Blood Swords. No AP, unfortunately, but he does have a Warbound. So Warbound is pretty much Khorne's special ability, or army-wide ability, where if the opponent rolls a 1 to defend against the hit, then it counts as 2 wounds. It doesn't sound like much, but when you roll a crazy amount of attacks, it can add up pretty quickly. And I paid for the Warbound boost, which instead of just 1, it's 1s and 2s. So when I have 2 swords that have 12 attacks and my quality is 3+, then that can add up quite quickly. And if I roll well, though. 2 units of identical barbarians with scout and flails and full command. Really quickly, scout is you deploy as normal, but once all the normal units are deployed, then you are allowed to deploy units with scout, in this case my barbarians and my other dogs and so on, an additional 12 inches up, as if it's like not an ambush, but like vanguarding, let's call it, from Warhammer and Total War. You vanguard deployment. And they have flails, they have a banner, a sergeant, and a musician. Musicians, which I actually forgot they have, they give you +1 to your move. It doesn't sound like much, but it can really add up when you take cavalry. Because of the fast rule, quote unquote, it adds +4 to your move. So if you have that plus a musician, that's 5, including your minimum 6 inches for charge. That's a pretty big charge. Plus the 2d6 if you roll, if you're lucky. So there you go. It adds up pretty quickly. Next, we have a Tri-Hound Champion, which is pretty much like a Khorne. What's it called? Let's just call him Corn Dog. I forget what the Flesh Hound. There we go. But he's a special little boy with 3 heads, and he's just. I just took him because I have Karanak, a little cool model, and he's not overly strong, but he's just neat. He scouts. Next, we have a unit of 10 Chosen Warriors with halberds. Next, we have a Harbinger of War, which would be pretty much like a Demon Prince. A little bit not as good as the Undivided one, but he's good when you join a unit. And in this case, he joined 10 Blood Warriors, which are Bloodletters. The Harbinger has a spear with the deadly rule, so the spear pokes first. Then he's got stomps, and he's got a sword. So similar to, which is actually new for me, because I usually play regimental games where you just have one sword and you swing with that sword. Here you have multiple different weapons if you're lucky enough to take them. It kind of reminds me of 40K, which I've never played before, but I've seen that they have a lot of different guns or different swords. So, like, you got your sword, you got your fist, and so on, or your teeth. So it's pretty neat. It's cool to have a wide range of different things. You can go 2 swords, and go 2 spears, and so on. So it's pretty neat. And we have a champion of war, which would just be a bloodletter hero. He is on a blood crusher, and he's joined to a unit of 3 blood crushers. And lastly, we have 2 units of identical warhounds with scout as well. Pardon me. Next, we have Havoc Warriors, which would be Chaos Warriors, combined with Rift Demons of Change, so Tzeentch Demons. And when you make lists, you can actually put a name on it. So here we have Maleev Malakor, which most of you know it's a play on of the name Be'lakor, which you'll see in two other editions there. So he is a Havoc. So it's pretty easy to tell who's who. So Havoc bound is Chaos, and then Change bound is Tzeentch. So he is a Chaos Lord on a Manticore. Although it doesn't say he's on a Manticore, it says flying and fear 3, so it's easy to remember. Next we have Morgan Malakor, and he is a Chaos Warrior, Warriors of Chaos Lord with a great weapon. And if my memory serves me correct, he is joined to the Warriors. Then we have straight up Be'lakor. He is a Tzeentch version of Be'lakor, and he's a caster 4, which I think is one of the highest you can have. Usually it's just 3 is the highest, but 4 is a lot of spells. And he's got 2 great power gauntlets, 6 attacks each, AP 3. That is nasty. Then we have a unit of 10 Chaos Warriors with great weapons. We have a unit of 5 dogs, a unit of 5 Barbarian Horsemen, a unit of 3 Demonic Guard Knights, which are pretty much they're not Chaos Knights, they're not Blood Crushers, they're a little bit in between. I've never played Age of Sigmar, but there are those, I think they're called Varanguard or Varangian Guard. No, I think Varangian is the real life one. Varanguard, those big, essentially demonic horse knights for Archeon. Not only the models that he chose, but also the knights. So they're pretty much just big cav. Let's just get straight to it. A Drake Giant is a Shaggoth, just a big old great weapon, AP 4, which is nasty. And then a Vortex Beast, which has very interesting. He's got shooting, he's got melee as well, but he also has a dangerous terrain debuff, which is sort of like a magic spell that he does. It's not magic; it's just a special ability that throws onto an enemy. So even if he's stuck in combat, he can still use that ability onto opponents. Next, we have Ouroboros, which is, again, it's just the name that you can put for your lists or your characters. We have the Beastmen with the Havoc Warriors, so the Chaos Undivided. We have 2 units of Barbarians with flails, with the Versatile Defense Aura, which means if you get charged, I forget, sorry, I think if you get charged from over 9 inches away, then you get +1 defense. So we have a Waheni Huntmaster, which looks like he's just a Beastman character. Tough 3, which you can tell how big they are with their toughness, so Tough 3 would just be an infantry character. He's joined to Kemba Brutes, which sound like they're monstrous infantry. We have another identical one. So 2 identical ones, probably just they're pretty darn good. Next we have a Harbinger, which is a a Demon Prince with a Demon Gauntlets, 3 attacks each, AP 4, goodness. He is joined to Drake Centaurs that also have 4 attacks, AP 2, so that's a big, tough unit right there. And then we have 2 units of Hounds, just for scouting. Next we have Warriors of the Woods, it's a good name. We have war disciples. So we have corn warriors mixed with wood elves. A little red and green, a little Christmas action here. We got a basic barbarian champion, and he is joined to some corn chosen with dual weapons. That's a lot of attacks right there. Next, we have another barbarian champion mixed in with some war death reapers, which is I've never played Age of Sigmar, but if I remember correctly, it's those infantry, corn infantry with like dual weapons, like flailing hammers or the skull reapers. It's one of those two. But anyway, in this game, they're monstrous infantry, but they're just humans, and they have dual hexed weapons. So they have 4 attacks per model with rending. And rending is if you roll a 6 to hit the opponent, then it counts as +4 AP. Pretty much like you poke them right in between the armor plates. So that's a really tough unit. I know firsthand because I got destroyed by it in the third game I'll talk about, but we'll get to that soon. Then we have some Glade, some Wood Elf Scouts, just 5 scouts with some 24-inch bows and 2 shots each. It's pretty good. 2 units of dogs. Then we have a Grove Champion. That looks like it's a Wood Elf character joined to Forest Watch, which, if I remember correctly, those are Way Watchers. They're really, really good archers. And, they have ambush and stealth, so that makes sense. And they also have 2 shots each as well, so that's pretty good. And lastly, we have a Tree Giant. Big, tough guy with AP2, a big stomp, and branch claw. So he's got 3 different attack profiles. That's pretty darn good in combat. Here we have the Saurians. We have a pretty straightforward name, Frog Mage, that has 2x caster 3. So does he channel 6 spells or 6 dice or tokens? Not sure, but if he's based off a what are they called? Those frog mages from Warhammer. I can't remember what they're called, but anyways, he's a really good spellcaster. A Saurian veteran, which sounds like a Saurus Old Blood character. He's got tough 15. Goodness, so he's definitely on some sort of Carnosaur or some big dinosaur. We have 20 Saurian warriors, 10 chameleons, Rip Jaw Dactyl instead of Ripper Dactyl riders, 6 of them that ambush. We have Gator Veteran, which would be a Cruxicor hero. He's got a Obsidian Grey Weapon. That sounds threatening. And he is in a unit with 6 other Gators that also have Obsidian Grey Weapons. So probably just big Obsidian paddles that you hit home runs with. And then lastly, Snake Swarms. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. We have Rift Demons of Plague. So those would be Demons of Nurgle. We have, which is actually my second game that we'll see, Ascended Harbinger of Plague. So really big, what's the name? Great Unclean One. So he's got 2 hammers, stomps, and he's also caster 4 as well. So he's pretty much, and he also ambushes, as if you couldn't see a Great Unclean One coming from the trees. Then we have a Champion of Plague with tough 9. So it sounds like he's on a mount. And looks like he's joined to... Oh, he's just by himself. We have 10 Plague Warriors, which would be Plague Bearers of Nurgle. And then we have another unit of just 5 of them. We have Plague Fly Riders. Fortunately, I can't remember their name, but those would be the Monstrous Cavalry for Nurgle. I can't remember their names, unfortunately. The Bloatfly Riders, whatever they're called. They have swords, they have stingers, and they also have poison spit. So they're pretty much Monstrous Cavalry. Then we have a Plague Beast, which would be a Beast of Nurgle. And he's got stomps, he's got a toxic attack, and he's got toxic spit as well. And then lastly, we have a Soul Demon of Plague, which is a soul grinder of Nurgle. Tough 18. He's got a Plague Cannon. And he's got a giant infected sword, 18 attacks. Holy crap. So that's pretty cool. And I think now's a good time to mention for the 2,000 points that we play, there is a setting that you can put in the creator that you use called Army Forge, where essentially if you play 2,000 points, you can't have a single unit, or correction, a single model that's worth over 700 points. Well, this guy at the very bottom is 685, so he's just barely there. But I wanted to take a Soul Grinder of Corn, 710 points. Son of a bitch, couldn't change it. Broke my heart. Couldn't take it. So here we're getting into the games. Thankfully, I know it took a while. Sorry. I totally forgot to take a proper picture of my army, but we'll see plenty pictures later. So maybe you'll get a better picture. But it's a pretty small army. Granted, a lot of characters are joined to a lot of units. We got the big Bloodthirster on the top right, and then the very top right we have Karanak, the Trihound champion. Below that we have the 2 dogs. Just to the left of the dogs we have the Bloodletters. The very top middle we have Skulltaker, which is my Ascended champion. No, Harbinger of War, which is pretty much a demon prince. Right below him are the Chosen. At the very bottom left, we have the Blood Crushers, and the guy with the black Blood Crusher, or Skull Crusher. Sorry, whatever it's called. Sorry, the Beast. That's the character. And then the left side top is the 2 units of Barbarians. So now we're going to get into the actual battle reports. It took a while. I know, I just wanted to lay down the framework, but as I mentioned before, if you skipped forward to here, good thinking. Don't even know the rules, just get into the game. But if you join me this far, then we're only halfway there. So let's get into the battle reports. So on the left side here, we have the Rift Demons of War and the War Disciples, which are just Khorne. That's me. And on the right, we have the Chaos Undivided and the Rift Demons of Change. So we have essentially Khorne versus Chaos Undivided and Tzeentchian Demons. And we have the list here. You can just pause and look over it, but it's the one with Be'lakor, just to remind you who I'm playing, just to remind myself as well. So here we have the deployment. So the battlefield, all the tables have 5 terrain features. In this case, we have deployment type late arrival, which means it's standard deployment, so 12 up. You can see my Chaos Warrior is actually right in the middle of my side of the table, so that's 12 up. And then my opponent can go 12 up as well. And then late arrival. Before deployment, roll a d6 for each unit. On a 1, that unit is put into reserve. So who we don't see on the board is my Bloodthirster. I rolled a 1 for him. And my unit of Bloodletters with my Skulltaker in there also rolled a 1. Pardon me. And then my unit of Blood Crushers, I gave them ambush, so they come on later, naturally. And for my opponent, he didn't have any, just straight up as it is. As you can see, there's some units that are deployed a little further, like my Barbarians and my dogs on the left, and his Barbarian Horsemen. They all have Scout. So pretty much what I did is I put down my 1 unit of Chaos Warriors, or this Chosen Warriors, and just let them go, because that's just because of the ambush, the scouting, and the deployment type. I only had 1 unit to put down, and then, which is good or bad. I mean, obviously, Barbarians and dogs aren't that strong, but being able to be that close to the opponent can really help out a lot. And I did forget to mention, but this is really, really important, is that the same turn that you scout and the same turn that you ambush, you can also charge, which we will see in a couple of pages from now. That does sound overpowered. Admittedly, it is. But I like it because it gets the game going. And It's fun. It's fun. Plus, if you kind of if you ambush, you lose a turn. If you scout or in Vanguard, then you're so close to the opponent that it's like, why even go that close anyway? So yeah, here's a picture of the whole room. We got 4 tables, 8 players in total. Pretty fun. I got some pictures later on of the other tables as well. Here, just taking pictures of the opponent's army. It looks damn good. We have the Demonic Knights. We got the Khorne Knights, Lanesh and Tzeentch. Looks really good. The Shaggoth. Oh, and really quick to mention, the actual base sizes don't necessarily matter. Obviously, if he's Shaggoth, you shouldn't be on a 20 by 20. You should be on a bigger base. The Army Forge creator does have suggested sizes, but it doesn't really matter too much. It's the fact that it doesn't matter encourages taking whatever models you want, which we'll see in the next page here. We have a giant Bellicor model. Looks fantastic. And if my memory serves correct, the suggested size would be 60 millimeters by 100, which would be a big rectangle. Well, obviously, you can't fit the Bellicor base on that. So it's kind of just a common idea where just put them on a square, reasonably sized base, or if it's a unit template, as we can see, a lot of his units or models have oval or circle base. So you make sure, as the best you can, not the end of the world, but as best you can, put them on a template or a movement tray that actually has proper sides, just to make the game run quicker and easier. But anyway, we have the Barbarian Horsemen that vanguarded or scouted, the Manticore, and then the Chaos Warriors. And next page we have the Vortex Beast, Big Bellicor, and the Dogs. Just another good picture. This is actually, so it is also it's new to me, an activation-based game. So this would be turn 1. Those white tokens, or poker chips in this case, indicate that the opponent, or not the opponent, but the actual model or unit has already moved. They already used their activation. So getting right into combat or getting right into movement, you can see my dogs. I got a lot of dogs moving pretty quickly. I have my boy Karadak on the left doing some flank move. I successfully charged his dogs, my dogs, and he also countercharged. So I charged because I go so fast and I scouted. It was a for sure charge. So he declared that he was going to countercharge. So I rolled and I got it in already. So I got there just fine, but we both count as charging, which most of my army wants to countercharge. So it's good that basic infantry like barbarians, they can't go very far. They can, but not reliably in comparison to cavalry. They have the opportunity to count as being charging much more often, which is good. On the right side, we have some movement, and the dogs are there to chaff. I don't really want to get them to combat because then that means they have to fight, which they'll probably die. So it's good to chaff. Rest of the movement, the Chosen are practically gone. They were victims of Bellicor's dark Tzeentchian magic. The Mutalic, wow, that's a tough one to say. The Vortex Beasts ranged attack, which is blast, so it's pretty much like an explosion. And also his special ability, if I remember correctly, which just it makes me do a dangerous terrain test. So for every health point I have, let's say I have 5, I'd have to roll 5 dice, and for every 1 that I roll, instantly take a wound, just straight up. And then we have some more movement. Chaos Warriors moving up, Manticore, Barbarians, so on. And then there is, going back a page, sorry, there is a combat on the far right. It's hard to see, I forgot to take a picture. We have the Barbarians. He charged my Barbarians, and I declared a countercharge. All Barbarians have a roll called Furious, where if you roll a 6 to hit while charging, it counts as another hit, which is good because they only have a 5+ to hit, so it's very rare for them to hit anyway. So he charged me, and I charged him, and I did kill him. I think he might have done a few wounds, but that's that. Then next you can see my dogs. Some of my dogs are still there. They're hiding behind Be'lakor. And then going into turn 2, we have my ambushing Blood Crushers with the hero back there. And although they are the size of the Blood Crusher, they're actually they're called, I think they're called War Beasts. They're actually just basic like a dog size, the 25 by 50. But you had the model, so you take what you got. And then next we have a overload of demonic invasion. We have, which actually really worked out for me. I thought at first when I rolled those ones for the deployment type, I thought I'm going to lose by turn 2. But because you can quote unquote ambush and also charge in the same turn, that's a really big deal. So we got my Bloodthirster. And then you can see the Barbarians. They lost a few models, but they turned to face the incoming enemy. So we have the Bloodthirster, quote-unquote, ambushing, the Bloodletters ambushing, and then they have the flanks of the enemy. Here we have some charging and some moving. So we had the Blood Crushers charge the rear of the Beast, just because I didn't want him to move and shoot some more. He can still use the special ability, which he does later on. We have Karanak, we have the dogs. I charged him with my dogs. He took the charge, and then I later charged with my chosen, just to get in there. They're gonna die, but might as well take some with me. Be'lakor's moving around. The blue chips indicate how many magic dice he has left. I'm pretty sure he's used all of his. You can also, so every at the beginning of every activation, a caster gains X amount of tokens. So in this case, let's say 3, I can't remember. So he gets 3. He can hold on to them, but you can't have more than 6. So use them or lose them, pretty much. And then over here we have some big combats. We got the Bloodletters, the Blood Crusher, into the rear of the Demonic Knights. The Demonic Knights charge my Barbarians. I declared a counter charge as well, so everybody's charging. And then on the left side, we have the poor souls of the Barbarians getting stomped by the Manticore and the Shaggoth. And then somehow, I thought I was going to do better. The Vortex Beasts survive the flank, or the rear charge of the Blood Crushers. I believe, I forgot to put down the dice, but I did believe he took some wounds from me. I did some wounds to him as well. I can't remember if that dice indicates how many he has left or he's taken, but I know I'd done some wounds to him. The red token indicates that he is shaken. So he took a test, failed it, and so because he had more than 50% of his beginning health, then now he has -1 quality until he wins a combat. In the middle, the dogs and the Chaos Chosen lost, but they did take some wounds down with them. And then we have just the repositioning. Be'lakor is just facing up the next target. Karanak is just watching for fun. And the secondary objective was hold the ground, which in this case is just hold the hill right in the middle. We did move the token just because the Chaos Warriors were standing on top of it. But if my memory serves correct, my opponent has 2 tokens now because you get them at the end of every turn, starting with the second turn. So you just get 1 point, and then 1 point, 1 point, so on. And so here we have the Demonic Knights dead. They killed essentially all of the Barbarians on the right side, but the Bloodthirster and the Bloodletters were untouched. Surprisingly, the Barbarians on the left side survived. They have exactly half their health, and if I remember correctly, I lost combat by so much, but because I had a banner, instead of rolling on a 6, I rolled on a 5, and I rolled a 5. I was good to go. So no minus quality and no breaking or so on. And then so we had 2 sides of the battlefield. Left side here, we got the Cavalry, Be'lakor, and Karanak. I charge in with Karanak. Be'lakor charges my rear. Here we have the Bloodthirster. I think he actually failed. No, I didn't fail. Sorry. I think I get into combat with the Manticore, and my Bloodletters are guaranteed in the Shaggoth and the Barbarians. I think I actually forget to charge with my Barbarians. And then the Karanak, the poor dog, he dies, and the Vortex Beast is kicking ass against my Blood Crushers. But the hero survives. He's shaken, but he's still there. That's for sure. The Shaggoth dies, and the Manticore dies. So now the Bloodletters and the Bloodthirsters are going in unpeated. My opponent still has the secondary. He's just holding fast with his Chaos Warriors, but their doom comes pretty soon. And the Barbarians are kind of just taking it easy for a moment. They deserve some rest. But not for long, because we have the Bloodthirster actually fails. I think I only needed a 5 on 2 dice, but I fail a charge into the Vortex Beast. And so he's just kind of sitting there. But we have my Bloodletters charged, or correction, his Chaos Warriors charged my Bloodletters. I declared a counter charge, and then my Barbarians got in there as well. And just want to take a picture of these awesome looking models. Unfortunately, I don't remember what those things are called. I feel bad. I feel like an idiot. But they look really good. And it's a good change in comparison to the regular like black or just red capes of a Chaos Warrior. That looks really good. And it adds a lot of theme. It's very simple. And especially the yellow cape. It's so... Yellow is very un-chaos-like. So it's really striking. Especially around the red. It's a very striking pose. So it looks really good. Well, I guess that was the last page. Apologies. But if my memory serves correct, let's just go back. Sorry, I should have added a thing that says it's the last picture. But what I forgot to take a picture of is this combat. I win, and then I move forward with my Bloodletters and my Barbarians. They get up on the secondary, so I start scoring some secondary. My Blood Crushers die, so he turns around with his big beasts. I then turn 5 or turn 6, I can't remember. My infantry go forth onto the secondary just to keep getting the bonuses. Let me go back to a wider picture. Yep, so the secondary right there. My Bloodthirster eventually charges... Who do I charge? I charge the Vortex Beast, because about this time he only had a few wounds left. So I get in there, and then Bellicor flank charges me. Just a big battle of demons. And we all fight at the same time, so it's pretty neat. I get destroyed, and I lose all 12 of my wounds. But thankfully, I was also able to take down the Vortex Beast as well. So Bellicor lives, and so on. And all that fighting actually happened just to the left of this hill here. And yeah, apologies, I forgot to take a picture, but actually, I don't think I killed the... no, I don't think I killed the Vortex Beast. I take him down to very few wounds, though. And then once my infantry get on the hill, I start scoring secondaries, and Bellicor gets into combat, but thankfully I have so many health points, I'm just able to withstand the amount of beating, and my Barbarians get onto the secondary, and I keep scoring, and secure it, and somehow, some way, I was able to get the secondary. And so, although I didn't take a screenshot of how much points I lost by and how many points he gained, I know for sure that I actually lost the game, but because I secured the secondary, that skewed the points. So if I remember correctly, this would have been a 12-8 for my opponent, which would fall in between the 501 and 750 victory table difference. So pretty much he had more than 500 points difference, but because I got secondary, that skews it by 3, which switches it up to 11-9 for me. So very, very close. Great game. Fantastic looking models. But that was a good introduction. There was a few deployments that I messed up, but in general, that was just fun. See chaos against chaos. That's lots of fun. Next, we have my Khorne Demons versus the Rift Demons of Plague. So just one army, just one take of the Demons of Nurgle versus the good guy. I mean, the Demons and Chaos Warriors of Khorne. Again, here's the list. Just to break it down, we have 2 giant beasts, or 2 giant demons, some infantry, a plague beast, some rot riders, the flying beast things, and then a champion of plague on a mount. Pardon me. And getting straight into it, we were just so busy, I unfortunately just forgot to take pictures, but the deployment type for this was flank attack. So you had to, it's 12 up, like normal, but also 12 away from the side. So I was not allowed to deploy on my right side, 12 inches in, and then that would be mirrored on my opponent's side. So on the very top left, you can see some extra dice and some models. Those are not deployed yet. That's just his quote-unquote dead zone. And in addition to that, all units with fast must be deployed in a reserve. And similar to last game, reserve is like a different kind of ambush, but it's pretty much like they're getting in late and their butts must be touching the table edge. So they pretty much just get to the job late. They got into some traffic in the webway. So here, yep, we got that deployment. The secondary is Spoils of War, so that's 3 different. We got the Las Vegas poker chip right in the middle, but that's 1, 2, 3 different tokens that you can pick up. You pick up and hold it, sort of like a trophy. If you die, you drop it where you are, and then the opponent can pick it up. So pretty much you just take it, hold on to it, pray to God, and don't die. So yep. So getting straight into it. My barbarians had scout, so they just scout last. Again, with my chosen, put them right dead in the middle because I want to take the hill and want to take that middle objective. My opponent, hopefully I can get a better picture. So I'm kind of spoiling it, unfortunately. Yeah, there we go. This should have been the first picture, but we got the 2 units of barbarians, the chosen warriors, the bloodthirster, and the bloodletters. Pretty much all in line formation just to move up and get some action going. We have his giant plague demon, which is his lord, just doing his thing. Again, that's not, although there are not no correct bases. It pretty much suits the model, so that's the way it goes. He's got his plague bearers in the middle. I'll go back in a few pictures. And then his plague drones. There we go, plague drones with riders on top. That's what they're called. And blending in on the top right, we have the plague beast. The dudes in the top left, which I'll go back to right now. Great looking models. Jesus, I saw those when he was walking in between tables, and I thought, how the hell am I going to deal with that? But here we have the gorgeous soul grinder of Nurgle with some cool characters on top. And then we have the character on a Nurgle snail, it looks like, and 10 plague bearers. So going back really quick, this was the very first picture, just to show that my barbarians scouted. So you get to go 12, and then if you have scout, you go another 12. So pretty much units that have scout can deploy right in the middle of the battlefield, which they did. Then they charged the plague bearers, and they deployed right on the objective. So first turn, I picked up the Las Vegas poker chip, kept it with me, and charged into the plague bearers. On paper, they really shouldn't, but then again, I wanted to get into combat, and because we both fight at the same time, there's no initiative, so it's just kind of fight and hope it works out well, and plus it's fun too. So I get bonuses for charging, so there's no reason not to. And then the plague drones squaring up. Yeah, although they are all in the same unit, it doesn't really matter. You just kind of bring with what you can play. It's all about playing and having fun most of the time. Here, so yeah, we got move up. This would be, I think, turn 2. I want to say, let's say it's turn 1, which sounds crazy, but it's understandable because both units would have charged. Both units of barbarians would have charged. Or maybe it's turn 2, sorry. But both units of barbarians charged, and everything, all my guys just pretty much moved up 12 inches as much as they could. There we have the barbarians are taking some wounds, that's for darn sure, but they're keeping the enemy in combat. And really, there's no reason not to. You just want to start getting rid of the chaff. And I guess he's doing the same with me. Here we have some guys getting into combat. Oh, right. Okay, yeah, so they're missing models. I forgot, unfortunately. So you see my dogs on the bottom right, and you also see that on the very bottom left, that's actually the base of the monstrous cav, the blood crushers. At the beginning, or correction, at the end of turn 1, all of the fast units came into reserve, and because it's the type of flank attack, all of my guys had to come on the very left side of the table, and they had to fit in between the opponent's deployment and my deployment. Thankfully, literally just exactly the distance, I was able to fit both my dogs, my cav, and my corn dog, and they fit exactly inside, thankfully. We did miss a picture. I didn't take a picture of it, but the reason they are missing 3 models is because at the beginning of the turn, my corn dog declared a charge right into their unit. It's pivotal that I charge them because he held, or correction, well, yeah, let's just say he's held. It's good because I get to keep him back there. Sure, obviously my dog is dead now, he's gone, but that keeps the magic over there. That Nurgle magic is a lot of buffs and a lot of damage spells, so I like to avoid taking as many as I can, so keep the magic over there. And the dogs and all the cavalry moved up. Here, the plague drones were killed, which was very surprising. I just rolled very well. And then the barbarians, they're taking a beating, but they sure are giving it to. Here we have the Duel of Fates. We have the big boy versus the big boy. The reason he's actually not in combat is because I failed a charge. I think, again, I failed like a 4 or 5 charge. And the Blood Crusher is actually, the Blood Thirster is not fast, so he only goes 6 plus 2d6. And I can give him ability to make him go plus 4, which would pretty much just give him fast, but it's extra points. And I thought he was going to get in, but no, he failed, and it is what it is. But obviously, as you can see, my opponent didn't get into combat, so we'll have proper charging next turn. And plus, it's good to charge, but you don't get a combat res bonus for charging, and my Bloodthirster doesn't actually have any bonuses for charging, so it's not the end of the world, I guess. Here, the enemy is gone because, again, I wanted to keep the magic over there, but my Blood Crushers just turned and waited for my corn dog to disintegrate into the ether and declared the charge to hopefully do that, and it looks like they did pretty well. Now, the interesting thing about how combat works in the Ottawa version is, as we mentioned before, if you take a morale test, let's just say you fail it, whatever it is, you failed it, and if you have half or less of your total health points of the whole unit when you started, pardon me, sorry, of the whole unit, less than half or less than half, then you just instantly die or you rout. Very interesting thing about this is that the Plague Bearers, if I remember correctly, the Plague Bearers had 10 points, so 10 health points, they all died, but the character was left alive. Now, because the character was part of that unit during the beginning of combat, and they failed the morale test, the character had 9 health points. So obviously that's less than half. So unfortunately, the character disintegrated with all 9 of his full health points. But that's the risk you take. It is what it is. If hypothetically he did survive, then he would have later separated from the Plague Bearers and then would have had a better chance of survival. But that's just the way it goes. And the dogs were there just to hopefully help up later, but they didn't have to. Here we see some combats, a lot of dice going. Barbarians moved up, and then it looks like the Bloodletters charged into the Great Unclean One, so did the Bloodthirster. Oh, Jesus, we have some big combats. So his Soul Grinder And yeah, so his Soul Grinder ambushed on the very far right of the table. Forgot to take a picture. And the Beast of Nurgle also has a poker chip. He picked up the blue one, and he kind of just went from the right side, woo, all the way down to the center. And there's a big old combat. Now, I am missing a unit of Barbarians, but I think they died from magic. So the Bloodletters, plus the Harbinger, which is Skulltaker, the Bloodthirster, and the Barbarians are all fighting the Great Unclean One. And damn, was he tough to beat. He's got a natural 2-up defensive save, which is the best you can have, which is a real pain in the ass, because all of my Bloodthirster, my Bloodletters all have AP 0. So, yeah, they have a lot of attacks, but he saved 90% of them, so it is what it is. And then the Soul Grinder is just kind of looking over his shoulder, just getting ready to fight. And the Beast of Nurgle, he's doing his little thing too down there. Oh, there you go. So that's the last picture. I should have put a last picture warning, sorry. So what happens after this is, if I remember correctly, the Beast of Nurgle dies, and he drops his token. The Bloodthirster dies. But the Great Unclean One later dies as well. On the far right, the big guy wasn't actually able to get in contact or to get into combat, but my yeah. So apologies. My Bloodthirster dies. My Bloodletters die as well. They just pretty much crumble away just because I lose half, and I also fail combat res or the combat roll. I did kill the Beast of Nurgle. I did kill the Great Unclean One. Did not kill the Soul Grinder. My Barbarians did die on the very top, so they lost their objective, their black poker chip. But behind the scenes, on the left side, one of my dog units just totally avoided combat, turned around and went to go get the objective. So at the end of the game, only the one objective by my dogs was being held, and that's what allowed me to get the secondary. So 14-6 was the final score. So that normally that would have been a 11-9 for me. So that means I won by at least 250. So 250 to 500, and then also got the secondary. So that was a great game. I really enjoyed playing against my opponent. It was very fun. It's something really satisfying in playing against just these giant models where it's like, all right, you're going to kill most of my army. You got shooting, you got play cannons, you got spells coming out of your ass, but I'll fight you. I just got to get in combat somehow. And, well, although he won most combats, but you just got to keep fighting here and there. And that's why secondary is so important. Like, let's say my opponent won by 200 points. I would have been down 9-11, but then the secondary helps you swing back to 12-8, for example. So very important, especially if you don't want to throw your dogs away. So just turn around and go pick it up. So yeah, but it was lots of fun. That was pretty good. And then last but not least, we have the third game of the Corn Dudes versus the Corn Warriors and the Wood Elves. So the Christmas trees versus the Christmas trees spelled with a K. Here we have the Warriors of Corn, the Warriors of the Wood, so a mixture of Wood Elves and Corn, some Barbarians, mixed with some Monstrous Infantry and so on, so it's pretty good. Here, so this is deployment, so the deployment type was counter thrust, so it's a little funky. It's players cannot deploy units within 20 inches of an enemy unit, which sounds straightforward. But our deployment zones are actually increased to 16 inches. So for the majority of units, you can get up pretty far. But then it's kind of an interesting game of cat and mouse where you can put a unit, let's say his dogs on the top left. He put down his dogs there, so I have to keep far away from them, which I did with my my Bloodletters there. But then obviously my Scouters can do whatever they want. So it's an interesting game of cat and mouse to see how far you can get away from the enemy and so on. Scouters such as barbarians, corn dog, dogs, wood elf, archers, so on. They ignore that 20-inch away from the enemy rule, but they can always deploy 12 inches max away from your deployment. So if your deployment is 16 inches this time, you can get pretty darn close to the enemy. More than halfway, as you can see from the hill. The middle of that hill is halfway between both sides. So you get up pretty darn close. Pardon me. So here we have, on my opponent's side, the very top left, we have his dogs. We have his, it's hard to see, but you can see better in other pictures, his Way Watchers with a character in there. In the middle, the monstrous infantry on those lava bases. Those are corn. They're not monstrous infantry per se, but they're like a very, very elite. Let's call them wrathmongers. Let's just call them wrathmongers. They're very elite corn infantry, but in this game they're just on a larger base. Right behind them, there's 5 more basic wood elf archers, and beside them, here's the tree father. I can't remember what he's called, unfortunately, but he's just a big tree giant tree character. Beside them, in the blue with the lava bases, are corn chosen warriors with paired weapons. That's a lot of attacks. And then lastly, on the top right, we have his dogs. So, I was getting tired. I admit, it was a long day. A lot of talking, because I was also learning at the same time. I've totally forgot to take most pictures. But it doesn't matter, because this game was over very quickly. I do apologize. I do remember a lot of it, unfortunately, but I do apologize I didn't take the pictures. So, pretty much getting up to the next picture, what happened was, just like always, my scouters, I really want them to face the enemy scouters, just to kind of dominate as many different angles as we can. So on the left side, the dogs charged the dogs, and the barbarians moved up just to get closer. And the top right, my corn dog charged his dogs, and subsequently he also countercharged me. The dogs on the left side pretty much just ran into each other, but didn't do a damn thing. And the corn dogs on the top right, he actually just killed my dog, just outright. So, because I got into combat, but his archers were able to move up ever so slightly and shoot my my left flank. So I think he did 3 wounds, which is pretty good, which allowed his dogs to finish up my corn dog. I moved up all the way with my characters, or sorry, not my characters, my units, just to get into combat. The secondary was King of the Hill, and we both actually chose the hill. King of the Hill is that you choose a terrain piece that's not fully in your deployment. So for me, I could have chosen the water, hill, or tree, and he could have chosen the trees, forest, the top right, so the forest, the hill, or the field. But we both chose the hill, just to keep it simple. And so we both moved up, get into combat. Barbarians and the dogs on the left side started scooching over. His archers were just melting my barbarians and my dogs. And I don't think... No spells from either side. I don't have any spells for shooting. Just that's the corn way. And my opponent had no spells, but plenty of shooting. Now, as I mentioned before, my corn dog disintegrated. Dogs on the left, wet noodle fight. But if we jump to the next picture, there's a few things that happened between. On the very top left, I was able to ambush with my cavalry, and I charged the side of his Way Watchers and just totally whiffed. Impact hits did nothing. My attacks did nothing. Just terrible. His defensive skill is pretty high because he's elite elf, but I just whiffed. And this is a couple turns after. I think let's just call this turn 4. And this picture here, the previous one's the beginning of the game. It hasn't happened yet. But eventually he stayed in combat somehow, and he turned and faced me, and he just started stabbing me with his swords, and I just kept losing combat, and just started crumbling like a demon. On the left side, his dog is still alive. Somehow my dog just couldn't do the job. So he had one singular dog alive, and he just kind of chilled in the water, just having a bath day. My unit barbarians was moving in the middle just to go support. Both of our units moved up to get into combat. Sorry to go back and forth so often, but his unit of monstrous infantry right in the middle moved up aggressively. I too as well, because my opponent had the first activation. So again, here's a great thing about activations is that although yes, you started first, you also have to worry about next turn because I start first. We swap them. So we both moved up very aggressively. And then his monstrous infantry was very far forward. I moved forward with all my guys. And although, yes, there's counter charge, there's that rule, again, to help with getting into combat very quickly. Got to worry about flanks and rears and so on. And so, but that doesn't matter because his monstrous infantry is gone. The reason they're gone is because they took a couple rounds of fighting and he completely obliterated, like absolutely obliterated a whole unit of barbarians. I have 20 models in a unit of barbarians. He did 24 wounds. Just slaughtered them, like as if they didn't even exist. And so not that unit of barbarians, the one that's evaporated in the air, dust particles in the air. He charged the one unit, I countercharged, and then I flank charged with my barbarians, my bloodletters. They did a couple wounds, the character did some wounds, but goddamn, he did a lot of wounds against me. I was down in combat res by, almost 15. Thankfully, I had a banner. Although if I lost, I would have only been shaken. I wouldn't have run away or died, but I had a banner, I rolled 5, so we're good to go. He turned to face me. And, then he put the beating onto my bloodletters. As you can see, they're gone. But thankfully, by that time, my other unit of barbarians charged his flank and somehow was able to go to Pound Town with those flails and eventually got the rest of the models. But that monstrous infantry, the Wrathmongers, sure did pay for themselves. Apologies. And to make matters worse, I attempted maybe a 6 charge, so like a 6 plus 2d6, and I only needed a 6 on 2 dice. Again, I failed it into the rear of his monstrous infantry by the beginning of turn 2 with my Bloodthirster. And, that's weak stuff. Because of that, his Chosen were able to take the initiative and charge the rear of my the rear of my Bloodthirster. Well, I got obliterated. I do have 9 wounds there left because he did shoot me with his one unit there. Just started poking me and did 1 wound here, 2 wounds there. And the Chosen got in and just evaporated me. And so the Bloodthirster eventually dies. His Tree Father, on the other hand, gets into combat with my Chosen, and he had 3 different attack profiles, a couple with AP here and there, and he just started killing the hell out of my Chosen. But because everybody gets to attack at the same time, although he did kill 7 models, I was still able to attack with all my models back. We fight at the same time, so it doesn't really matter who fights first. It's just easy to remember who does what first. And I was able to, if I remember correctly, I was able to get about 6 wounds off him. And so his dice, it shows he's got 3 left. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Next page. So the warriors are gone, so he's down to 2, it looks like there. The Bloodthirster eventually dies. I can't remember exactly when he dies, but I know he's not alive at the end of the game, that's for sure. And all while this is happening, the archers can just have fun and just keep shooting. They don't need to get into combat or anything. And so the Bloodletters died a while ago, but because I won combat and they died outright, I took the wounds that I would have taken from the monstrous infantry dealt onto my bloodletting unit, you attack the whole unit at once. And I took so many wounds. According to this dice here, I have 3 wounds left. So the bloodletting unit would have taken 13 wounds. So obviously 10 killed the letters or blood letters, and then 3 extra were put onto me. So again, going into the crumbling and the dying, it's yes, you can get some good bonuses, you can get some extra hits, some stronger attacks, and these aura abilities, but you also have to be careful because you can just outright die because you take on the defensive skill and you take on the risks of taking on those extra wounds that carry over. Pardon me. So yeah, the Blood Crushers are still in combat. I was very depressed by how poorly they were doing. But then again, it's all about the charge, just like real Blood Crushers. Real Blood, what are they, real life? No. Warhammer Blood Crushers. It's all about the charge. They don't get the charge, and they're not very good at sustained combat. Here, as I said before, the Bloodthirster died, but I was able to take down some few Chosen while I was at it. And the Skull Taker gets into combat with the tree and killed another Wood Elf, but anyway. I added that picture by accident. Apologies. I doubled up on the pictures. Here, we have some death. So in the very top left, we have some more Blood Crushers just dying because they can't do their damn job. In the middle, we have the Tree Father gone. If I remember correctly, my Skull Taker killed him, and the tree also killed the Skull Taker, so it was killed at the same time. And then his Chosen charged my Barbarians, did a hell of a lot of wounds. They're missing the unit filler there, which counts as 8 guys, so I just took it out to remember it easier. And I did some few wounds here and there too, so it's pretty good. His Wood Elves and his singular dog somehow survived and marched all the way around to get onto the hill and secure that target. And I think this is the last picture. Yes, it is. So I got my butt kicked. I got 4 victory points and he had 16, but secondaries would have been a 13-7. So all things considered, not that bad. But then obviously the secondary did in the work. And so yeah, that was a great game. The ambushing was lots of fun, very well painted. The army looks really good. I know against this gentleman, I won't say his name just for privacy's sake, but I know I played pardon me, sorry. The Ninth Age against him. So we're playing Chaos, and actually from my last battle report in my first video, you would have noticed the Barbarians are actually painted now. That's crazy. And so they rank up really well from my Ascalander army, so that's pretty good. And the Blood Crushers, they eventually do die. Oh, okay, yeah, so this is not actually the last picture, I apologize. The Barbarians get destroyed. They eventually die. And the Chosen turn, and they face the Blood Crushers and move up whatever, and then they charge the side of the Blood Crushers. And the Wood Elves somehow survive. They're just standing there with the bow and their sword, and they're killing these demon cavalry. And the Chosen and the Wood Elves are eventually able to kill the Blood Crushers. So I was tabled outright. But thankfully I took a lot down with me as well, so that led to this. So all in all, that was lots of fun. That was pretty good games. Next we have Can games in May, but we might have some games days, or the next official tournament day is actually after that as well. But if I have any more games or from the Ninth Age or this, I'll definitely have to post them because they're lots of fun. And I'd like to say thank you for watching and hanging out. That's easily an hour and a half video. I'll try to cut some down. I apologize. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a good day. Take care.